Eating in, eating out. Will warmer seas change the British diet?
Ask any person in the UK to name a traditional British dish and fish and chips is sure to be one of the top answers. This classic dinner dates back nearly 200 years. The famous English writer Charles Dickens wrote of a fried fish warehouse in his novel Oliver Twist, 1839, and the fish in that dish was served with bread or baked potatoes. Historians disagree about the original fish and chip shop. Some say that this combination began in London around 1860. Others say it began in the north of England. Wherever the dish began, it became very popular, first with the working classes and gradually with everybody. The National Federation of Fish Fryers says that the sale of fish and chips is now worth £1.2 billion a year in the UK. Of all the fish sold in fish and chip shops, 62% is cod and 25% is haddock. These are the favourites for British people, probably because they were the fish traditionally found close to the British Isles. However, 70% of the cod that is now eaten in the UK comes from Norway, Iceland and the Faroe Islands, and it is caught and frozen at sea before being imported to Britain.
Climate change, all change. A team of scientists at York University have found that since 1980, the temperature of the seas around the UK has risen by 1.6 degrees Celsius. Oceanographer and Professor Callum Roberts also said that they looked at 36 species of fish, and it seems that 15 of them have already moved 300 kilometres further north in the last 35 years. Fish that live in colder waters have had to move closer to Iceland to find the temperatures they need, and species such as the John Dory that were once found near southwest England are now found off the coast of Scotland. Another team at the University of Exeter have been studying climate change and specifically how it is affecting the North Sea. They have compared long-term data with their own current findings about the types of fish that live in these waters, such as haddock, plaice, dab and lemon sole. At the same time, they analysed information from the Met Office, formerly called the Meteorological Office, which is responsible for weather and climate change forecasts in the UK and worldwide. The scientists then combined all of this data to predict how climate change will affect the North Sea and the fish that live there. Their results suggest that these waters will become 1.8 degrees Celsius warmer over the next 50 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but could have a dramatic impact.
Professor Stephen Simpson of Exeter said,
"We have seen waters become warmer within the last 30 years. More exotic species are starting to show up in waters around the UK, while the colder water fish are retreating further north. It is a bit like the changing of the guard, but we, too, have to adapt."
How does this affect what we eat? For many generations, British people have enjoyed cod or haddock, and so this has become a cultural habit. But around 70% of the cod eaten in the UK is now imported from other countries. We used to eat this fish because it was local, but cod and haddock are no longer found close to British coastlines.
"We are buying fish like cod and haddock from other countries,"
says Professor Stephen Simpson.
"but then selling the fish we have around our shores to France, Spain and Portugal. It's time to be a bit more adventurous and adapt our diet because the fish is moving."
We can choose to stick with traditional cod and haddock, which we now have to import from colder seas, or we can adapt and start choosing the fish that now live around the British coastline. This means that red gurnard, sardine, herring and dab have become the logical choice for British dishes, as they are the most sustainable fish living in the local waters.
What is the future for fish and chips? Interestingly, the most recent National Food Survey shows that fish and chips is less popular now than it used to be. This survey, which is all about people's eating habits, examines the trends and changes in what British people eat. Between 1974 and 2014, the amount of takeaway food that people ate in the UK nearly doubled, but the British consumption of white fish and takeaway fish fell by 50%. People who still love fish and chips and like the idea of local fish need to consider alternatives to cod. It might take some time to change their habits and to adapt to new flavours, but it is certainly better than saying goodbye to fish and chips for